Hi, good evening, good evening. I'm Patrice DeLisser, host of Indigo Inspire Live, but I'm also the president of the Indigo Inspire Foundation, and I want to say welcome to you tonight for a very special presentation that will be given by now has become a dear friend from Tristate Financial Advisors. David Awakim is here with us tonight. That's going to be discussing the financial healthcare planning strategies. We are kicking off tonight sort of a recap. David was wonderful in Washington, D.C. on April the 18th during Autism Awareness Month celebration. And we want to do a couple steps back to kind of bring you up to speed of what took place in D.C. But also, we want to be mindful of we're definitely in a climate where financial planning strategies are so necessary. We are seeing increases in job losses, not just by the hundreds, but yay, at this point, even in the thousands. And so it really is such a pivotal time, and I believe a strategic time for us to have this conversation, to have financial healthcare planning. Now, we did this in conjunction with healthcare planning for parents of children on the spectrum and even expanded to parents and caregivers planning for the financial health of their children in the event of job loss, or they get older and parents are no longer with them, but they have a financial strategy in place. But we are seeing that in order to even to get to that place, there needs to be a very healthcare planning strategy leading up to that process. And so I thank you guys so much for being here. As you're coming in, please make sure if you have any questions, this is your opportunity to ask David live. We'll also give you information how to contact him even afterwards. But we're considering this the second part in a multiple part series. So David's not done with us. We're not done with David. He has some vital information, and we want to keep you guys up on the cusp of what is going on in the financial world. So right now, make sure you also turn on your notifications when you see that we're going live to make sure you do not want to miss any of our programs, particularly when we have Tri-State Financial Advisor David Awakim with us. So you definitely want to make sure, hey, take out your iPads, your phone, get a pencil, pen, paper, anything that you want to write down and not forget. Obviously, the replay will always be here, but please take the opportunity while you can to ask him live in person any questions. And if David is going a little bit too fast, you say, hey, can you just slow down? Can you repeat what you just said? Because I want to make sure I get it, because we do not want anybody lost in the financial sauce. So at this time, I want to bring to you and introduce to you the one and only David Awakim. David,
Patrice.
how are you? How are you? Welcome to Indigo Inspire Live, and welcome to our next series in the financial healthcare planning. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Pleasure's all mine, as always.
Yes, so I was just telling a little bit about, you being with us in Washington, D.C., but now this is an opportunity for you to tell them exactly who you are and what your role is with Tri-State Financial Advisors.
That's a great entry point. A junior advisor here, still starting my career, still building my book of business, but definitely learned a lot about finances. It's a world that was a mystery to me growing up. The reason why I got into the industry to begin with is my parents had a couple opportunities during their growing up years, their prime making years, where they could have made a couple different choices had they had someone to guide them along the complexities and the struggles and the busyness of life, and really highlight the big impact decisions, which could have landed them in very different circumstances than where they are now. And just being that person that my family didn't have, other families out there, is what drives me to do this work, make sure people out there are taken care of, no matter what life is throwing at them.
Okay, I want to just let you know your audio is a little low, so I don't know if there's any way you can turn up your mic just a little bit more, because I don't want anybody to miss anything that you're sharing.
Let me see if I can do that for you right now.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, technology is not my forte.
It's okay, but we appreciate you. All right, let's do an audio test now and see how we are.
Is it any better now?
You're much better. Yes, much better.
Yeah, audio test.
Yep, you're
One,
good. You're
one,
good.
two, three. Okay, perfect, perfect. My
Yes.
my apologies for that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But
No
as I
worries.
was saying, kind of gone to the industry to take care of people, provide for people the support and guidance that my family didn't have growing up, and make sure that they're able to make those small decisions that are hard to make but have massive impacts when it comes to their financial picture, not only today, but 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I wanted, if you could do me a favor, even now, we're going to share the card with your QR code. If you can put that up there. So I want to make that first introduction. So if at any time you guys want to screenshot or just put that up there, I'm going to do it right now. Here we're going to bring it to the stage here. All
Perfect.
right, so you'll see that QR code for questions and additional comments outside of this live tonight. Please be sure to scan that QR code so that way that you can connect with David and he would be more than happy to speak with you concerning any financial questions that you may have and help you as well put your portfolio together. Everything is exclusively done and curated per client, and so everything is not a one size fits all for any situation. So David is very patient and very kind, and you will definitely get some great service from him and understanding of the complexities of where you are in your financial picture. And for those of you who have a great portfolio but you say, you know what, I can do better with that, but I don't know where to go, please, David Awakim is your guy. So let's
All right.
go ahead and David, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you at this point.
Perfect. And again, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Patrice. I think you hit the nail right on the head, right? There's always room for a second pair of eyes to look over things, make sure there's no gaps in the plan. And that's not only just the investments that you're in, but also how much are we saving? Is our current savings rate putting us on track towards our financial goals? Do we have a clear picture of what goals are? If we're looking to put the kids through college, is that a private school, public school? How much are we expecting in government grants versus out of pocket? What options have we explored to finance that in a tax efficient way? There's a plethora of questions out there. And a big part of my job is just guiding people through asking the right ones. But I want to talk a little more about Tristate and who we are. Right, this is the presentation I gave to you guys in DC at Autism Speaks. It was
Mhm.
focused around healthcare planning and overall financial planning, particularly for folks on the spectrum and their caretakers.
Correct.
And of course, always a little disclosure that this is a broad overview, right? This is not personalized advice to you. We're giving you ideas and concepts to think about and ponder. If you want personalized advice, please don't hesitate to reach out to me personally using that QR code. There should be a widget that will appear on the screen throughout the conversation as well.
There we go.
And, Tri-State, we're out here in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, just out of DC. And, we're a growing team, about 52 advisors strong today. We have a variety of socials on here. Feel free to follow us and contact us through those. And our overall strategy when it comes to financial planning is a three-pronged strategy. First, we get a clear aiming point, right? What are you trying to achieve? How on track are you? What strategies are you utilizing and what else have you explored? And what might be some gaps and threats to that plan? Once we identify, your strengths, your weaknesses, the threats and the opportunities available to you, we go into strategy. What are the most efficient ways to achieve those goals and targets they are working towards today? Then once we agree on a strategy, we dive into the particular investments with the best track records, strongest performance, and lowest risk and lowest fees that get you to that end goal in the most effective way possible. And effective doesn't always mean the best performance. Sometimes it means lower taxes, sometimes it means less fee drag, sometimes it means more flexibility. We'd always have that conversation with you, show you your options, to help you make informed decisions. At the end of the day, financial planning is about making better decisions for tomorrow.
David, I do have a question about the investment
Of
portion.
course.
So, when you're sitting down with a client and you're introducing them to the market, obviously stock market options and things of that nature, what do you recommend for the first time? Let's just say taking their feet into the water a little bit, a more aggressive, or would you say get them in training wheels, like a slower return, get a return a little bit faster, but you kind of can see exactly how the market is going and get them up to speed on what would be the best option?
I don't think that that makes too much of a difference at the end of the day. I think that the most important thing is to just start saving. Just saving is the number one thing you can do to put your future self in a better boat than you are today.
Okay.
We can get into the nitty-gritty, right? I would say just setting up a recurring payment into any kind of diversified, they're called ETFs,
Hmm.
exchange traded funds. There's a lot of great ones out there, but anything that tracks an index that has done well historically, it's hard to go wrong with doing that.
Okay.
And that segues me really well into kind of the cornerstone of financial planning. We like to call it the three bucket approach, where you can think of your assets as split into three separate categories, with each category having various goals and tackling various risks that come forth both in your working years, that's during the accumulation phase, as well as during retirement. That's what we call the distribution phase. And I know I might be speaking some witchcraft here, so to give a better visual of what that looks like,
Hmm.
you're on the y-axis, we have your net worth over time. And on the x-axis, we have your age, or just time passing. As you begin working, you start to save and accumulate assets away. But then at some point, you decide to stop working. You stop putting money into the pile and start drawing from the pile. Of course, as you do that, your savings will start to go down because you're drawing from them to sustain your lifestyle, to replicate your income that you used to have from work. That breakpoint is a split between the accumulation phase and the distribution phase. And we
Now,
use the
Dave,
three
now,
bucket
Dave,
strategy.
now, Dave, we're
Go ahead.
seeing more. We're seeing, I think, a teeter into more of the distribution phases, particularly in the climate that we're in. And so,
Mhm.
as we're talking about that, kind of, if you, whatever advice you can give to kind of help dipping into that or lessen that as possible, if
Right.
you can give us, some pointers on that would be helpful later throughout the comments.
And we'll definitely focus on pre-retirees, right?
Mhm.
That's the time when some of the biggest decisions available to you have to be made, especially on distribution strategies. And we'll definitely address those as well. And the three bucket strategy, again, it's helpful for both accumulators and distributors. So to kind of walk you through how the strategy works, I'm going to start on this rightmost bucket, the liquidity bucket. Think of this as your emergency fund. This is money that is stashed away in cash, money that is not invested, right? So things like cash, money market accounts, which aren't quite like equity investments. The way that those work is they stay pretty flat, but they give you back a nice consistent yield. Typically nowadays has been about 3 to 4% over the last 10 years. Things like CDs, checking and savings are also great vehicles for this. And Patrice, why do you think we might want emergency funds just sitting on the sidelines?
Well, first of all, I think what we talked about before we went live is life happens and jobs can change quickly. And with that, having that cushion. And if I remember
Mm.
correctly, if I was a good student, having at least 6 months, even to a year of expenses in savings. So that would be, whatever you pay for rent, mortgage, insurances, all those sort of things to have that put away for,
Mm.
for catastrophic emergencies. So even if it's slight emergencies, job changes, job loss, and having that available to be able to access when you need it.
And I gotta give you an A plus for that response. That is exactly right. The reason why we have the emergency fund is to handle a risk called emergency risk. What do you do if you have that one terrible week where the car breaks down, you're laid off from work, and the kid decides to break their foot and has to go to the hospital? That's why we need money sitting on the sidelines to enable us to respond to those scenarios without taking on debt, without dipping our toes into our long-term investments that might not be very liquid. All that liquid means is how quickly you can access an investment or funds. That's why that liquidity bucket is the first one we look to fill. Even if we feel like it's an impossible task right now, just putting away even $10 a week starts to add up for that emergency bucket. The second bucket I want to talk about here is this income one. The main goal here during your working years, the accumulation phase, is this is your salary. This is the extra money that you bring in that pays your bills. And then after your bills are paid, is the money that goes to your savings. And the key idea here is that this money is what sustains you and allows you to live your lifestyle. And excess from it is what goes towards the savings. And what does savings look like? That's what targeted growth is for. This is money that you're putting away into the market, right? Money that you're not looking to use in the near term, money that you're investing and hoping to see growth on it. And this can take the form of a managed account, take the form of some protected equities, take the form of stocks, mutual funds, those ETFs I'd mentioned, as well as a variety of other strategies out there. And the big idea with putting money away to invest is to handle some of the other risks that life throws our way. Right? One of the big ones, you've heard on the news recently, I'm sure you have, inflation. If you have money sitting under the couch, the grocery store, the gas pump, wherever else you have to go spend your dollars, does not care. Those prices continue to rise over time. At least they have historically for certainly as long as I've been alive.
Hmm.
And the key idea there is that equity investments, investing in the market, has been the only thing to consistently outpace inflation over the long term. Long term meaning 5, 10, 20 plus years. That's why being invested is so important, because it's our main hedge against losing away our money to things like inflation and just prices rising faster than our savings could. But of course, what goes up also likes to come down. So we have the aggressive side of our portfolio that is focused on growing and optimizing returns and getting rewarded for the risk that we take on in the markets. And I'll touch more on what that looks like later on in today's conversation.
Hmm.
But there's the other side of the coin that we can think of in a portfolio called the conservative side. This is money that is put into safer investments, things like cash or those money markets that we'd mentioned. The big idea here is a sort of sequence of returns. So let's say we have the aggressive and the conservative side, and on any given year, there's just about three things that can happen in the market. Either it goes down, in which case our aggressive side does very, very well. That sees some nice growth. The conservative side, because it's safer, doesn't grow by as much. It grows very little. If the market is flat, then we don't really see any growth in either account. Sherry, I'll get to your question in just a moment here. I see you there, don't you worry. And then the risk that the conservative side addresses is called market risk. This is a scenario like the 2008 housing crash or the dot-com bubble during the late 1990s, where we see the market as a whole take a massive dip, anywhere from 30 to 50% on individual investments.
Now you
When
have to
this
say,
happens,
David, that panic mode would hit in. You know,
exactly,
that would just be
exactly.
like, okay, wait a minute, I can't see. I'm seeing my money go down, as my mom used to say, in one big flush, and I got to get it out of there before it's all gone. So yeah.
And that it's very easy to fall to that panic response when we don't pre-plan for those scenarios, right? We gotta buy our umbrella while it's still sunny outside.
Hmm.
We can't run to get it during the rain. And that's why it's important to think of a risk tolerance. All that risk tolerance means is a split between the aggressive and the conservative. A 10 out of 10 or 100% risk is being all aggressive, no conservative piece.
Hmm.
Makes sense for people, very young, 20s, maybe 30s, that like to take on the risk and they like the ups and downs on the roller coaster of the market. And they're willing and capable to wait it out. Willing and capable are very important. You need to meet both those criteria. Something like a 5 out of 10, that would be an even split between aggressive and conservative. For most folks, 6 to 8 usually is what makes sense. As you near retirement, that number goes down. But the point of the conservative side is when the market goes down, our aggressive pieces are down significantly. Conservative stays flat, doesn't take those losses, and is a positive anchor that holds up our portfolio. And I want to go back to my little drawing board here and demonstrate an example of why that's important for long-term returns. And then after I demonstrate this example, I'll answer your question there, Sherry. So let's say you had $100 and the market takes a 10% tumble. So you go down to $90. To get back up to 100, you need about an 11% upswing in the market. Nothing too bad, right? You
Hmm.
lose 10, you need 11 to get back up. However, the way that the math works out is, let's say you had a bigger drop in the markets. Let's say there was a 50% drop out there.
Ooh, my anxiety.
Doesn't happen often, I can tell you that. But it's important to be prepared for when it happens.
Yeah.
That $100 drops down to $50. Now, Patrice, how many dollars do you need to go from 50 to 100?
Oh, that's going to at least be, um, I'm going to say
50 to
60.
100.
I'm going to say 60.
You need $50 back.
I'm just listen. Oh, and it's Sherwin. When you said Sherry, it's Sherwin. It's male.
Oh,
Sherwin.
I'm so sorry. So
Yes.
sorry. I have the chat on a small screen on the side. I'm so sorry, Sherwin.
That's
My
okay. Yeah, sure.
apologies for that.
Hmm.
But the idea in this example is that from a 50% loss, you need to double your investment to return. Doubling your investment means 100% gain. The idea here is called the law of large losses.
Mm.
The bigger your percentage losses, the more returns, the more good years you need to swing back up.
So, but
That's
is
a
that
big
going to be
reason why.
is that going to be determined
Yeah,
by the swing back up could take a year, or it could swing back up could take 5 years?
It really depends on what the market does. Oftentimes it takes a couple of days, sometimes it takes years. There was a company from, I can actually give a great example here. Just one moment here. Get that up on the screen. Have you heard of a Cisco before?
Yes.
Yeah, they're a big tech company, and
Mm-hmm.
they were actually, one of the biggest companies in America during the dot-com crash back in 1999. You can see if you're invested in Cisco on, I don't know if it's big enough for you guys to see on your end here, but if you were invested,
I don't
can
see
you?
it.
Oh, apologies. Again, not the most tech savvy. Let me update the screen for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to stop screen,
Okay.
and then
I'll
I'll
bring it
share
back.
the example I want to show here. Let me just
Okay.
make it nice and big so it's easy for you guys to see. Share screen, share screen. And can you see the screen here all right?
Okay. Here we are. I'll bring it back up again. There we
Perfect,
go. There we
perfect.
go. Mm-hmm.
So this is a company out there, Cisco Systems. You can invest in it. Just need to look up the ticker symbol. And it was one of the biggest companies in America during the late 1990s, early 2000s. You can see here if you're invested in it back in April 7th of 2002, you bought it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It would have taken you
Wow.
until December 5th of 2025 to
Wow.
break even.
Wow.
Right? That's a long time for it to recover. And that's one of the big risks with individual stocks. We call that concentration risk. If you look at the overall market, we call that the S&P 500. That's the 500 biggest companies in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Think of companies like Cisco, but also Netflix, Walmart, as well as more stable companies like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, right? The big national franchises
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sure you see just around the street corner all over. If we look over the same time period here, from early 2000, you can see that the market recovered in just a couple of months there. And you can see even with the big dips, within 5, 7 years or so, it was already back up.
Mm-hmm.
And this period in particular, from the dot-com bubble to the early 2000s, it's called a decade of no returns.
Okay.
Because you can see,
Mm-hmm.
now it stayed pretty flat. Things didn't really change very much between that time period. But over the last 10 or so years, markets had spectacular performance. Other big drops that we've seen recently, 2020 was a pretty significant drop that recovered within that same year. Same thing with 2022 when interest rates were being hiked, as well as in April of 2025 when the tariffs were being announced. You can see for most of these drops, pretty quick recoveries. That's the beauty of being diversified. You get to participate in the entire economy.
Mm-hmm.
You get to enjoy all the ups and all the downs. And there's always some winners that tend to outdo the losers.
I,
I
I
hope
find it.
that,
I find it very surprising at that point where you talk about where the tariffs kind of came in, and then it's just
uh-huh,
going to continue to increase. So that's interesting.
yeah, yeah, that's often the case. This is why equities beat inflation in the long term,
Mm,
right? Although
mm,
we see downs and ups, downs and ups, downs and ups over the last 100 years or so, if I recall correctly, the S&P has done between 6 to 8% as an annual average, depending on how you calculate it. Some of the older data is not very accurate,
mm-hmm,
but about 8% is a pretty consistent return figure for the S&P 500. Again, that's the U.S. economy and the stock market, and that's an annualized average. And if you give me a moment here, I can pull up a graphic that's pretty relevant here. Just give me
okay,
a moment there.
sure.
Yeah, just need to find it somewhere in my inbox. I was showing it to a client recently.
Okay. Do you want to answer Sherwin's question now, or you want to wait?
Yes, I I can multitask.
Okay.
Market investments, speaking about calls. I am not quite speaking on options. I think that that is more of an advanced topic for folks that are already familiar with investing. Because with options, especially uncovered options, those are very important to be wary of because those can have unlimited losses. So I don't often talk about things like day trading or crypto. This is more focused on making consistent decisions that help you save and add up. Right? If you want a small side play account for your crypto and your options, that's perfectly understandable. But when thinking about things that are 10, 20, 30 years down the line, let's not try to hit the lottery. Let's be consistent. It has been proven to work for millions of other Americans.
Hmm.
I hope that addresses your question well, Sherwin. And to your point earlier, dipping into the 401k plan early can have major consequences on those timelines. And we'll touch on that for you as well. And I'm still looking for that slide. Excuse me here. Should have had that
Hmm.
better prepared. There we
No,
go.
you're good. And I'm going to, since you're good at multitasking, I'm going to ask. So, a
Of
job has
course.
been lost, and a severance has been given.
Hmm.
What it would be a good strategy for those who may have received a severance? Um, Obviously, the grief of losing a position, but you've got this
Hmm.
severance, and what would be, just give like one or two tips that would be helpful for individuals that are in that situation.
Yeah, I think this is a part where sort of the emotional coach part of the role comes in because a big part of financial decisions is the emotional aspect, right? Decisions are not made on spreadsheets, they're made at dinner tables, talking to the family, looking over statements. And I think what's important there is finding ways to replicate your income and making sure you're able to find a new job or whatever next opportunity you're going for before your severance package runs out. And part of that can mean putting a deadline on your grief, letting yourself feel what you have to feel, maybe enjoy life a little now that you have all the extra free time after being laid off. Never too late to make a good thing of a bad thing. But also make sure you have a plan in place to find a new job, find a new way to replicate your income, or if you're going to retire after being laid off, make sure you have a solid strategy in place for distributions and for pulling income in retirement. And the other big tip is just not to panic. Trust you have a strategy and go through the main things. Make sure you have an emergency fund ready. If you don't, put as much of that severance as you can towards that emergency fund. If you do have the emergency fund ready, that's the beauty of having that money set aside. It gives you a 6 month to a year's worth of cushion, even without the severance, where you're able to maintain your same exact lifestyle. For most folks, that is plenty of time to be able to find a new job, or at least find new ways to generate income and sustain the family moving onwards. That's the beauty of the emergency fund. It protects you from those unexpected risks that life throws your way, whether that's getting fired or whether that's some emergency expenses or a combination of the two.
Okay,
I'll say,
thank you.
I'll say that's my biggest tip is just don't panic. You have a plan in place, follow the plan.
Gotcha. All right. All right, I'm bringing your slides back up. Here we go.
Perfect.
There we go.
And this is just to highlight the point of markets have volatility and they have risk. And you gotta be ready to stomach that. What this is showing here is on the bottom, the lowest drop that the market saw from January 1st of that year to the lowest point that year. So in 1980, the market was down 17% in the middle of the year at some point during its worst day. However, if you just stay invested, don't sell at that low, stay invested, stay strong, stay steady, dip into the emergency fund if you have to, but not into your investments when they're not ready yet. By the end of that year, on December 31st, you would be up 26% on your initial investment. So if you put $100 in on January 1st, and then let's say you panic and you sell at the worst time during that year. And let me use my little calculator here. You would come out with $83. You would have lost 17. But if you have the emergency fund, which gives you the capacity to wait out those market downsides, as well as the knowledge to know that you're able to wait out the downside, it's in your strategy. You have a 20-year time horizon. You're not retiring for 20 more years. You can wait this out. And you sold on December 31st, the end of the year, you would be up 26%. Your $100 returned to $126. And what this is showing here is that almost every single year, there's a big drop in the market in the middle of the year. But similarly, almost every single year, by the end of the year, we've already recovered. We're well on our way to end up higher the next year after that.
Is that a typical rhythm in the case of that middle of the year being that kind of wonky time, and then the
It's not
rebound?
always the middle of the year.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be as early as February. Sometimes it can be, as late as November, December. Usually midterm years, those happen a little bit later in the year. Other years will happen around the middle of the year. But
Hmm.
again, that's just past trend lines. The markets are always full of surprises.
Yeah.
For example, last year, the tariff announcement is the biggest impact that anything had on the markets, which is why there was a big drop in April.
Hmm.
So it depends on all the things that affect stocks, geopolitics, economics, company decisions, right? A whole laundry list. What's important is staying strong and staying invested and having a strategy in place that allows you to do that. That's the number one biggest thing to do is stay invested through the downs. Have the emergency fund give you that comfort to make you strong and keep going through and staying invested. And another thing I want to highlight here is that between July 1st, 2005 and June 30th, 2025, missing just 10 of the best days in the market. So getting scared and selling, missing the best day, and then reinvesting drops your returns by almost half.
Ooh. Ooh.
Right? That's why it's so important to stay invested even through the downs. Because the other funny thing is that 7 out of the 10 best days happened within 2 weeks of the 10 worst days.
Okay. So repeat that one more time.
7
Mm-hmm.
out of the 10 best days in the markets
Yes.
happened within just 2 weeks
Okay.
of the worst 10 worst days in the market.
Okay.
So market takes a 20% drop. Then 2 weeks later, you see it's back up 30, 40%. And if you miss that 30, 40% going up because you got scared and you sold at minus 20, and you changed nothing else compared to someone that stayed invested and didn't get scared, you get half the returns at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of our emphasis is on just knowing what the good decisions are and putting yourself in a place where you're able to make those good decisions. And now I want to go back to that 3 bucket slide
Mm-hmm.
and really emphasize why that enables us to take on that approach and stay invested through both good years and bad years. Give me just one moment here so I get the screen back up for you guys. Any questions from the chat or anyone looking, you can
Yeah.
throw
No.
it in the chat on any platform you're watching or use the little widget in the top corner over there.
Yeah.
Share screen. looking correctly again. Sorry, I need to refresh the page really
No, you're
quickly.
fine.
Yeah.
You told the
Yeah,
story
feel free to
of
ask questions.
yeah.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
told this. You told the story of one of your colleagues, or cohorts, I believe, who would bring his young child on the lives, teaching them about
One of my clients.
yes, about
Okay.
just being sitting in on the conversations about
Mm-hmm.
financial planning and strategies and things of that nature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what would you recommend would be a great way to really start teaching kids? Even I'm not saying two, but actively maybe teach them about investing or putting something in the market. Like, would you tell your 10-year-old, okay, you have an allowance, you get $10 a week, using this as an
Mm-hmm.
analogy. Hey, we're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and put $5 and find something that we can put $5 on. Now, I don't even know if
Which
that,
you can do very easily.
okay.
You can open up a brokerage account for your kids. That's
Mm,
very easy to do. And $5 is a perfectly valid amount to invest in. That's the beauty of ETFs.
hmm.
A lot of those folks will allow for they're called fractional shares.
Okay.
So even though the stock might cost, $600, the broker, the company you're buying it through, will buy it and then give you whatever fraction your $10 would get you.
Okay. Hmm.
So you're able to do fractional shares. I believe Robinhood or an Acorn as well. They're two very popular ones, very popular apps for small
Hmm.
dollar amounts.
Hmm.
Allow you to do that as well. I know for sure on ETFs, I'm not sure about individual stocks. I have to double check me on that one.
The next question Sherwin has is: do you also recommend life insurance to your clients and various types? Am I still looking at whole life versus term life based on age?
Mhm. Yeah, and again, that depends on your particular circumstances. I can't give you a full answer without knowing your financial picture, without knowing what your insurance need looks like, without knowing what insurance you currently have through work or your employer or through a spouse or what the family situation looks like. There's a million questions to ask, but typically I find that there's very few cases where whole life wins out over other types of life insurance. Because they're insuring you for your entire lifetime, there's often much higher premiums associated with that. And oftentimes, your insurable interest goes down with time. If you have
Mm,
young kids that aren't able to support themselves, you have a need for insurance because what are the kids going to do without you?
mm,
But if they're grown and they're in their working years, and you only have to support yourself and maybe a spouse, the amount they need insured goes down. That's why oftentimes term life is what makes the most sense for folks. There's also other options out there that can grow over time and even prepare an early retirement, like an index universal life insurance or a variable universal life insurance. But I don't want to get stuck into those weeds.
hmm.
Just know that there's a lot of options out there, and you should talk about it with a professional out there that can understand your situation and recommend to you what's important to your situation and what's functional and will best support you.
Okay.
And oh, excuse me, I didn't press the share button here. Yeah, if there's any further questions,
Yes.
please
Yeah.
don't hesitate to ask me. Always
Hmm.
happy to clarify.
Okay.
And then there's a million caveats to dive into.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Sherwin. You're welcome. Yeah, David's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, here we go.
try my best. Try my best. Again, I know I'm just dumping a load of knowledge onto you guys, but it's all very, very important stuff.
No, I say that repetition deepens the impression
Right?
with situations like this. And so, no, I knew this would not be a one stop um, analysis. This was definitely going to be sort of that repeat and enlarge. So we're getting the first layer. Now we're getting the second coat, and so the next one, obviously, we're going to be even more. So
Right.
I'm really excited about that because I'm picking up things
Yeah.
that I didn't maybe catch the first time, but on the second loop, I'm like, oh, okay, got it, clicked in. Okay, yeah.
And I'm glad it's doing that. And again, I want to emphasize for everyone doing it at home, I'm going to say it a million times. The most important thing is to save a lot and then stay invested in your savings. Don't jump into the savings if you can avoid it. And that gets us to our next risk here, actually, liquidity risk. And I think it's best to address it using what's called a tax triangle. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard some of these terms thrown around before, but there's a variety of different accounts you can utilize when it comes to saving and investing. And we can divide them all into three different buckets. This bottom left bucket, after tax, tax always.
Mhm.
You pay ordinary income when you make the money. You pay taxes on dividends that your investments get. And then you pay capital gains taxes when you go to cash it out. Now, the benefit of paying taxes three times in these type of accounts is that they're fully liquid. If you want to spend money from your bank account, all you have to do is swipe that debit card. If you want to take out your cash, all you got to do is go to an ATM. It's very easy to access that money. If you want to take money from your brokerage account, just transfer it to your bank. Use it like you use it at a bank. The con is you pay all these taxes. They're not tax advantaged. The IRS knows that it's hard to save for retirement and knows that retirement is good for people, especially people that are looking to prepare themselves for the future. So to incentivize people to do that, they offer tax advantaged accounts. On the bottom right, there's pre-tax, tax later. This is things like your regular 401k plan or a 403b, pensions, or a traditional IRA. The way that these work is when you earn the money, you get a tax deduction. So if you earn 100k that year, but you put 20k to your 401k plan,
Mhm.
when the IRS looks over, you only made 80k.
Mhm.
They subtract your contributions out. As that money grows in your accounts and you gain dividends, you don't pay any taxes on those. However, when you retire, and for Uncle Sam, retirement age is 59 and a half.
Oh, I thought it had gone up.
It currently is 59 and a half. They might be discussing moving it up, but that's the current IRS rule for 401ks.
Okay.
If you try to touch it beforehand, there's a 10% penalty plus back taxes on all the exceptions they gave you.
Oh,
So you pay taxes on the deductions, and then you pay 10% on top of that.
oh, I'm going to call that the boomerang effect.
Exactly. They discourage you very heavily to touch your retirement before their official retirement age. Again, this is the IRS's retirement age. Social Security looks at a different age for that, 67 for that one for most folks. But after that age, and you can access your 401k penalty free, you begin to take distributions. You pay taxes on those distributions from your 401k plan, from your pre-tax assets.
Okay, so
Because of
David.
that,
So David.
yeah,
Okay, so
go ahead.
okay. So how do I? Okay, is there still a way to withdraw at that retirement age and put it back into something so you're not like taxed on it again? How? I mean, am I explaining or asking the question correctly?
Yeah, so I can walk through an example of how it works. Is let's say you're 62 years old, you're retired, you're all done, and you can set up a regular withdrawal payment where it just deposits money into your bank account or whatever account you're looking to deposit into. You can have them send checks to you. You can call in and ask for money from your 401k plan. And the way the IRS looks at it is just like at the end of the year, you get a big statement with how much money you made, your W-2,
Mm-hmm.
and then it tells you your tax bill. Same thing this way. The IRS counts that money as money that you earned that year, as if you had worked for it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taxed accordingly, depending on how much you withdrew from that account. Does that answer your question around the logistics of how it works, or
I just
may I
wanted to
dive into
see
a
how
framework for
there's a
you?
way to have can what's the best way to not have that
A big
money?
tax bill
Yeah,
in
that's
retirement.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
And I was going to get to that. It's
Okay,
tax diversification
okay.
because the IRS offers this pre-tax tax later bucket, which gives you a tax deduction today, but you pay taxes tomorrow. But it also offers after-tax tax never options. This is anything that has a Roth label. So a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k plan, 529 plans are a good example of this. Specially designed life insurance is a great example of this, the IUL or VUL that I was talking about. And the way that these work is you pay taxes today. You take income that you pay taxes on,
Hmm.
and then you put it into one of these Roth accounts. And then any dividends that they earn are tax-free. And when you pull the money in retirement, it's also tax-free.
Oh, I found my formula. There we go.
Perfect, right? And a great way to think about these two is you're taking a bet on taxes. Because of course, tax law can change in the future. So you can think of this pre-tax, tax later bucket as you taking a bet that your taxes today are going to be higher than what they'd be tomorrow.
Hmm. Mm.
After tax, tax never, you're betting that your taxes today are lower than what they'll be tomorrow. And I want to walk you through a little example of what it looks like in practice.
Okay.
So let's say, and we can wrap up our conversation after here. I know we're running close to time.
Oh no, you're good. No, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Sherwin is asking a question in the comments. If you want to take
Oh,
a
I didn't notice that. Thank you. Yeah, let's address Rowan's question first. I want to make sure it gets answered.
Mm-hmm.
Switching jobs, then we'll move your 401k plan. Yeah, so if your 401k plan is pre-tax, there are things called Roth conversions that you can do, but those only make sense when you're pretty close to retirement and you've already stopped working, so you're in a low tax bracket. Usually the best thing to do is just roll it over into an IRA. And the way that IRA works, you just go to any of the big brokerages like Vanguard or Charles Schwab or Fidelity. You open up an account called the Rollover IRA. You call into your employer, tell them, hey, I want to move my old 401k to this IRA, send you a check, you send that check to Fidelity, or someone they can do on the back end themselves. Pretty easy. And there you get a lot of options available to you to invest that 401k plan. And you don't pay administrative fees. Because
Mm.
if you leave an old 401k at an old employer, they're charging you fees to keep that with them. They're not
Mm.
significant, but any sort of fees will add up on your returns. But you typically don't want to switch it from pre-tax, you just want to leave it as pre-tax. And you want to move it to an IRA. Or if you don't want to bother with that, just want to keep it convenient, move it to your new 401k plan. Hope that addresses your question, Sherwin. If there's anything further you want to talk about, please let me know. While you think of anything or you type anything up, I'm going to walk through the example of why having Roth dollars can be pretty great come retirement. So let's say that you need $100,000 a year to live your retirement lifestyle. And you want to pull that from your 401k plan.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you only had a pre-tax traditional 401k, no Roth dollars, no after-tax dollars. You would probably have to pull something closer to 120 to pay the tax bill and then have your 100,000 left over afterwards. Here you paid 20k in taxes to pull out 100k.
Mm.
We don't like paying 20% in taxes. No one does. Instead, if you had some Roth dollars available to you and you split the two, so you take 500k from your after tax, your Roth, sorry, 50k, excuse
Mm-hmm.
me. You take 50k from your traditional, your regular 401k. Now, because you're declaring less income. In this example, to the IRS, you made 50K that year, your traditional. In this example up here, in the IRS's eyes, you made 100K.
Okay.
Because the IRS sees you as having made less money because you declared less money because you had less in pre-tax assets, you're going to be at a lower overall tax bracket. Probably only need to pull an extra $5,000 to pay off your taxes. So by doing this, we lowered our tax bill very significantly
Mm-hmm.
just by having a healthy mix of pre-tax dollars that give us a discount today, as well as after-tax dollars, Roth dollars that give us a discount tomorrow. Again, that mix depends on someone's picture, how much they're saving, and of course, how old they are and when they want to retire.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the beauty of tax diversification. And the reason why I got into all of that to begin with is because it's an important part of the three-bucket approach, right? You want to address liquidity risk, which is having money that is available to you. So money that is not like those retirement assets. We also want to have retirement assets in this targeted growth because they're tax efficient and you get better returns over a longer time. So things like your Roth, your 401k, they fall into this targeted growth. And, any brokerage accounts you're working with, they're also going to fall into this targeted growth. These are your main long-term savings vehicles. These two, a Roth IRA or a 401k plan, remember, you can't touch 0.59.5.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be very aggressive and take on a lot of risk, and you can see a lot of returns from that because it's money that ideally you're not using to begin with until you retire. The brokerage can be a lot more liquid because you're paying taxes 3 times on it when you earn the income, when you get dividends, and when you cash it out for capital gains. Your income, that's your salary, minus your expenses. Again, the magic equation here, maximize your salary, minimize your expenses. It's very easy to fall into what's called lifestyle creep, where you start earning a little bit more, so you go ahead and you maybe buy a nicer car before the lease is up. Maybe you start going out more often. And it's important to treat yourself and celebrate your wins, but it's important to not let that blindside you.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that you're growing how much you're saving over time. And then, of course, having an emergency fund. That's 6 to 12 months of living expenses, so that if life throws a wrench into this plan, you don't fall face first. You have that cushion there that lets you maintain your lifestyle, maintain everything you're doing, and gives you the time, the space to heal and respond.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to know the purpose of every account you're working with. Know the purpose of every dollar you're stashing away or that you're spending. And that's the big idea I want to focus on today, is have a plan with your money. Because if you don't have a plan, when life surprises you, you're going to wish you did.
Well, David, this has been exactly what I wanted it to be, which is really making great emphasis on these 3 tiers here. I think that was a great way to give us another firm foundation for the next part of the series in really planning for healthcare and really how to do that, do it well. I
And
want to get
you'll
into,
notice,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add a brief bit. We noticed that we didn't talk a lot about individual investments here. And I said this last time as well because wealth starts in the mind. That's why I was so happy when that client brought on his kid to watch, our financial planning session. Because it's important to be able to think about things in this way, to have these tools, these mental tools and heuristics as you go about daily life, to be able to have a clear plan in place. It's so, so important to have made a decision before you're set into that panic mode. And I hope that's what people take away from this. If there's any questions, please use that QR code. Reach out to me. My email is david.awakim, first dot last name, at tristatefa.com. Always more than happy to answer and help anyone out.
For sure. Can you put that slide up again for me? Because even though I have
Of
in the
course.
corner, I want to make sure that
Of
slide is
course.
there.
Yeah, nice and big for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. There we
Yeah, and
go.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, Patrice. I want to let you finish
No, no,
what you
no,
were
you're
saying.
fine. No, you're fine. No, because I think that's a great place for us to stop, and then coordinating your schedule to come back to the next part of the series for the continuation of the conversation, because we definitely have people, as we said, have had job changes, and they're hopefully what I wanted
Right.
to do is make sure to have them not be in panic mode. There, we like we're
You
here
have
to.
options.
Yeah, absolutely. You have options. And we're here to make sure that you know that you have options and where you can get your assistance from. That's why I'm so grateful for David being with us tonight. And I hope that you guys share this video too, as well, with coworkers, family, friends. Even I would say also share it with your young people. This is where they start learning exactly how the financial world works on an elementary level. This is all still elementary, but this will be an opportunity for you to come alongside your young person and say, "Hey, let's start working on your portfolio now." And what was the terminology you said? Like I gave the example of a 10-year-old maybe doing like $5. What was that term again?
Yeah. Yeah, into a brokerage account, you can
Yes.
do something called dollar cost averaging.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much, David, for being here. I really appreciate it. You have been awesome, and let us know. I'll be emailing you in terms of what your next availability is, and we're going to keep the
Sure.
conversation going. My hope is David will be with us in Philadelphia, if possible, or a representative from Tri-State Financial will be with us on July 25th to also be able to connect with him and connect with Tri-State Financial Advisors to give you all the resources that you need, particularly sitting down and having a one-to-one consultation. That is so essential.
Mhm.
What you think you know, you may not know, and what you thought you knew is something different today. So just staying up and current on what's out there and what's helpful is absolutely essential. Any closing thoughts, David, before let you go?
No, I think you put it beautifully, right? At the end of the day, finances, you can give all the recommendations to, paint a giant paintbrush, but it's a personal story to everyone's personal circumstances. And it's important to have someone that's seen many stories and seen both opportunities and pitfalls take a look and just tell you what's going on. And if everything's all perfect, I'll be the first to tell you that. It's my job to highlight both opportunities and potential threats to your financial future. So I'm always more than happy to do that. There's so many qualified financial advisors out there that are able to do that for you. Just ask for the help. It's there for you.
Yeah, I don't know Winnie. I know David. So, I'm recommending David. So, anywhere across the country, please make sure scan that QR code for the replay. The QR code is also there for you as well. Please scan that and make your appointment with David, and he's going to take good care of you guys. I know that for sure. So, thank you so much, David. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you being here. All right, so don't leave
Thank you
here.
guys all for joining us.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, David, let's put, I think we just do it one more time. Let's, okay, no, we got the QR code. We're good. So, David, just thank you for being here. And I'm going to just make a brief announcement and we
Of
will
course.
talk later.
Perfect.
All
Appreciate the
right.
time, Patrice.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's talk soon. Okay, everybody. So this has been a great next series of our financial healthcare planning, and the healthcare planning starts with the healthcare of your own individual portfolio. Do not get scared with the terminology portfolio. That really is just having a plan for your money and not your money giving you a plan. Having a plan that goes beyond just what today is, but also for the future, not just for yourself, but also a legacy for your children and your children's children. And so I really want to be part of a small part of that initiation of just more of a conversation, but an action for us to get as a community to think wise about how we use this power of money and keeping a legacy and making sure that we have generational wealth to pass along. Generational wealth is not a curse. Generational wealth is making provision for when I'm gone. My children have resources, but they also know how to continue to know how to invest and pass it on to their children and to their children's children as long as the Lord allows. So, in the meantime, I want to make sure I give you a quick update on what is happening. So, the foundation, we are excited. We're so excited for our board members. Starting from the top, no specific order. Sharon Williams from Gospel Music Buzz, one of our board of directors, Bertina Pelzer, Sherry Johnson, Michelle Bonilla, Gerard Bonnard, and Lauren Ballard from Hilltown Advisors. Yes, we have a financial planner on the foundation as well. And we are so excited for the things that we have planned. As you know, we're in partnership in supporting Autism Speaks, and we are continuing that relationship, bringing awareness to them, not just for the month of April, but autism awareness is every day in the not in the life of a parent with a child on the spectrum, as well as for the adults. My story in particular, my godson is autistic, and every day is a journey and a situation with him. And so I'm very passionate to making sure that whatever I can do as his godmother, as his family, to bring not just help for him, but to every child, every person on the spectrum. So that really is my heart's desire. And I'm so thankful that our board of directors also feel the same way. And we are here to bring support and help to wherever we can. And so in doing so, we are taking our foundation on the road and merging it with Indigo Inspire. You know, we are still in the independent music space and we have not left that behind. And we are actually merging our music with our mission. And so our next event, that's exactly it. We are still doing it and we're still doing it the way we do it. We are doing another event, but it is happening in, are you ready? Philadelphia. Philadelphia, July 25th. We have an amazing, amazing program, an amazing concert coming. And that is a fundraiser that we're doing for Autism Speaks to help support with their continuing work as what they're working with children on the spectrum. So I want to share where you got to see this. I'm so excited. I really am so excited. So let me just put this up here for you. And here we go. The Hello Summer Music Festival taking place July 25th in the city of Philadelphia. The concert will be kicking off at 5 p.m. and details will be coming at the end of this week. Today's date, mark your calendar, is May the 20th, 2026. And so by this Friday, you will have all the information, but I can tell you right now, a couple of the artists that will be there. The stellar nominated band Sincere will be in Philadelphia. Bishop Mark Collier, who has been recently signed with distribution with Gerard Bonnard from Bonafide Radio, will be with us. We have one of our indies who won the contest 2 years ago, Renwick Dewsbury, will be with us in the city of Philadelphia, and so many more will be coming and announced. So you got to keep it locked. Put your calendars, July 25th, 5 p.m. in the city of Philadelphia, as well with all representatives from Autism Speak will be there, and hopefully Tristate financial advisors. And we have so many. Goskatech will be with us. They were with us in Washington, D.C. and created an amazing sensory space for children on the spectrum that, please, you cannot miss this. And particularly if you are a teacher or therapist, occupational therapist, and you're in that space of working with children on the spectrum, I really invite you and even implore you, you have got to see the technology Okay, I think I'm back. I'm not sure what happened. I know we have storms coming through my area, so I want to make sure real quickly. Whew, I'm so glad you're still here. Please make sure you share this live. I'm so excited about the festival. I'm so excited of our partnership with Autism Speak. And I'm so grateful for you guys being here and answering the questions and being participating. So God bless you all. Have a great rest of your evening before the storm takes out everything again. As I always say, it's not just a vibe here, baby. It is a whole mood on the Indigo Inspire Live podcast channel. Thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your evening. Bye bye.